Who is your daddy?
I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
I am going for the Olivia Giroux look.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. Hey, listen, the good news for you is that no matter what goes on with your body, no matter how you fall apart over time, just know you'll always have better hair than I do. You won't have the receding hairline.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Let me blow it up.
No.
let me get. You actually remind me. Your hair reminds me of my friend Bryce. It's like thin, right? Yeah, he used to have real thin, wavy hair. So when he was younger, all the girls loved him. He's now bald.
Yep.
That hair fell out.
It's always been thin and wavy. I've always been able to let it grow long, but it's thinning out now. That's the problem. But hey, at least I'm in my 30s and married, and it's less of a concern than it would have been. I know guys who started losing their hair when they were 19, and I really felt bad for those guys.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my friends. He started like balding at like in his teens. It was ridiculous.
Yep. There was a guy I used to work with who went bald. Started when he was 19. By the time he was 23 or so, it was gone. But he just went with he lifted weights all the time. So he just went with the bald beard, giant muscles look, and it works for him. Totally works for him.
You just have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet. Just gonna go with some sort of comb over for the rest of my life.
Well, I think your wife's okay, unless she complains about how ugly you are all the time. Then
I trust her judgment. She usually is the one who does any kind of trimming on my actual hair, so that's up to her. I always tell her, like, whenever you think it's time to buzz it down, you just let me know. So I let her keep an eye on that for me.
Okay, well that's good. That's all that matters.
Right, exactly. All right, so we are going to talk about a few different things this week. Welcome back, Fathers of the Grind listeners. Thank you for bearing with us this summer as we've been on again, off again. I don't really feel that bad, though, because during E3, you got 3 episodes. And so that's why over the last couple of weeks, I've been a little less worried about getting an episode out every week. Both Derek and I have kind of crazy schedules. Listen, we don't work in the education or sports industries, so we don't get entire seasons off like some of those slackers that are out there. Okay, we have to.
I would actually say your life has intensified during the summer.
It certainly has. Yeah, we do a lot of foster care work now, so we have a lot of kids. If you can't hear, I've got a baby in the background here. I'll probably feed him at some point here in a little bit because my wife took the other kids shopping. Anyway, yeah, we've got a lot going on, but weirdly enough, I'm still able to play games. You know, now I just have to pick and choose what I play based on what little eyeballs are nearby, or do I have to do something that I can handle with one hand? For example, Octopath Traveler, if I'm playing on the big screen, I can just have the controller there in one hand because it's all turn-based. It's very easy. But
you guys still move around.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
I mean, if you've got a way to work it.
I do. I have a way to work it. Don't you worry about me. All right.
Are we talking about video games still, or what's going on here? Like, where are we going with this?
So it has been a very busy summer, but that doesn't mean that we don't still want to talk about video games, don't still play video games. Yeah. And it's interesting. I thought for this episode, not only do I want to talk a little bit about what we think about Octopath Traveler, is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to talk about Octopath Traveler at least a little bit, although it just came out yesterday. So I don't have a ton of time in this game yet. I think I've tallied, counting the demo time, I'm up to like 4.5 hours.
That's still more than me.
Uh-oh. They're after me. So anyway, all that to say, I don't have a ton of insight for you, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But then, I want to talk about the games or really any other entertainment that we default to when life gets crazy, when life goes bad, when things are tough. So whether we're dealing with a heartbreak or, maybe in the past, back when the girlfriend broke up with you, although I don't think that ever happened to Derek, but it happened to me. And so what was your escape of choice? Was it a video game? And if so, what games helped you through that stuff? And then now as an adult, what kind of stuff do you turn to? Is it more of the music or movies or binge watching TV? Do you just need to get out and about? Do you lose a ton of weight like Derek because he wants to look like the World Cup soccer players now? What is it? What is it that you do? So we're going to talk about that too. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about stuff we're playing, and then we'll talk Octopath Traveler. So, Derek, has there been any games that you've been playing recently that you want to talk to us about?
I think last time we did the show, I was playing Rise of the Tomb Raider. I played it some more. I got to... I know I'm pretty close to the end. At like one of the puzzles, and I don't want to think, and I'm so lazy, I don't even want to look up how to solve the puzzle. So I'm like, I don't want to play
Wait
this.
a minute. So you're not even looking up the quick way to finish it. You just don't even want to pull up another device to look that up.
That's how much I don't care.
Wow.
And so I do have to say though, especially after playing Uncharted 4, I really enjoyed Rise of the Tomb Raider way more. I don't know. I just like the Tomb Raider games more than the Uncharted games now. The reboot ones, of course. So I've been playing that. I will finish it eventually. I mean, I'm not going to get all the way to the end and then stop. Rocket League, of course. Rocket League is just, it's just, I don't have to think. I just play it. What else have I been playing? I just got Octotrash, so I haven't played much. We will talk about that later. I don't think there's really anything else. I just kind of like, Destiny 2. And I'll probably play Destiny 2 tonight.
Okay.
So I'm playing more of the non-thinking games. I have not been gaming a lot. I know last time we talked, I was gaming more. And then since then, I've gamed less. Not because of like any issues or anything. Just trying to keep myself busy and not just revert back to, well, let me just come home from work, play video games. Like I'm trying to like stay active, run, walk, hang out with the family, that type of stuff.
I mean, that's admirable, but I don't like the way that you're judging those of us who like to come home and just play video games. I mean, I'm not sure I appreciate that.
I am definitely judging. That's my total personality. I'm one of those like douchebags that just looks down upon everybody. That's my whole MO. By the way,
Makes
what
sense.
does MO mean? What does MO mean?
Modus operandi.
Yeah, see, I don't even know.
It's Latin for the way that you operate, basically. The mode in which you operate.
Okay. Now you taught me something.
Yeah. There you
This
go,
is one of
folks.
those things I've always heard, so I was like, oh, it makes sense because I've heard people say it, but then I was like, I don't even know what I'm saying.
If you're like me, you learned it on like crime shows when they're trying to like figure out who the serial killer is. That's when you hear phrases like MO. At least that's where I heard it. But
and I just bought today the Tomb Raider movie, so I think I'm actually going to watch that tomorrow.
I've heard good things. I haven't watched it yet.
It's
I've heard good
$10 pretty much everywhere to own it, digital. So I saw a 4K copy was $10. I was like, heck yeah, I'll buy it. So I bought the 4K digital copy. So I'll try to watch that tomorrow. So
nice.
But yeah, I haven't been watching. The only thing I've been watching is the World Cup nonstop.
Ooh,
yeah, every match
that's
on.
So good this year, man. So many good games.
It's been phenomenal, and so I've been watching every match. It's been good at work too, because I had it set up where I could watch every match at work. So that was really nice.
Yep. No, there's been some good matches. I've missed a good chunk of it at the beginning. So I missed some of the crazy stuff with Portugal and the comeback by, was it Germany? I don't know. I know there's been some good comebacks. I've missed some of that drama at the beginning. Yeah. But I've watched a good amount of the elimination round once they get into more of a bracket setup. And it's, one loss and you're done. That's usually when I really key in.
You might be talking about Belgium came back from down 2-0 in the second half.
Against Japan, right?
Yeah, and they won 3-2.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what I was thinking of. That's one of the ones that I missed in the tournament section. But then I've been watching it since then, and tomorrow, of course, is the final. By the time you guys are listening to this, the final will have been decided. I'm rooting for Croatia. I'm
rooting for France.
I like
my ugly brother.
I like the smaller countries picking on the big countries that have already won it before. So
no, you just like Modric, who's the most unattractive man.
Dude, I love Modric.
Oh God, he's so ugly and his hair drives me nuts.
Dude, yes, he is not an attractive man. I'm not saying that he's someone I would date.
So what we're saying is France, who has one of the most beautiful men on there, my younger ugly brother, Giroud. So it's Team Derek versus Team Ugly, Team Tim, with Modric.
Yeah, the main Croatian players that I think are the key to them winning the game, none of them are super good looking, which is weird because most soccer players look like male models. And the Croatian team isn't maybe the best looking. But
the funny thing is
good.
Rakovic was actually very unattractive, but I don't know if he just figured out how to like do the soccer hair stuff. But now he actually is semi good looking, and he is on Croatia. Like started doing like the comb over with the shaved sides, and then he even bleached it blonde
and
at the
to the
beginning
ponytail
of the
look.
And I was like, wow,
he kind of looks like one of the haircuts you can get for Geralt in The Witcher.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
I love how we're judging the way men look.
No, this is good. We actually need to have a whole segment like this for every show. It's funny because at work the other day, we had a conversation. It was one of those lunchtime conversations that went a little beyond the lunch hour, where we talked about what sports have the best looking male athletes and which ones have the best looking female athletes. And we were talking about the differences between the two. And some of the girls in the office were saying swimming has some of the best looking male athletes. Soccer was their top pick, but they were saying that swimming's up there too. And I was like, swimming for female athletes, not so much. I mean, very impressive what they can do, but they're no beach volleyball. Am I right?
Yeah, but the only reason why I would disagree with volleyball is most of those girls are tall, and I don't like tall chicks. I like 5-foot chicks.
Well, that's a good question then. Let's stop right here and let's figure this out real quick.
And I like thick women, so I don't like real thin. Like I like women to have like shape. Boobs, hips,
you thinking like, that wouldn't be soccer so much, would it? What sport? What women's sport has the best looking female athletes, in your opinion?
I think softball sometimes they get a little too big, but some of the softball chicks are pretty freaking hot. I was really attracted to who's the one American female player, soccer player. I forgot her name now.
Brandi Chastain was the one.
She was like real big. She was even on a FIFA cover. She's not the best player. Okay. But she's like probably the second best player on the U.S. squad. But she's really good looking, so they always put her on like the cover. But anyways,
Mia Hamm from back in the day. Remember Mia Hamm? She was really good. She's pretty. Some of the guys brought up things like tennis. That was their pick. Sports like
I'm not
tennis.
into the Serena and Vanessa Williams.
But for the guys, of course, the guys chime. It's so funny. The guys are more than happy to chime in on where they think the best looking guys are too. We all agreed soccer is right up there.
Yeah.
We all agreed that baseball has the extremes because you've got some of these guys that look like these hipster models in baseball, but you also have the fattest, most unathletic looking dudes that are on these baseball teams. So baseball probably has the most extremes, and football might have the ugliest overall players. Just in general, just on average. So
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So there you go. That was our conversation. I think we just solved a lot.
I have a feeling when this show releases, we're gonna get tagged in a few posts. What is this garbage? Skip the first 5 minutes where they're doing gay talk.
Oh, do you want to go ahead and give listeners a warning to skip ahead if they're not interested?
Yeah, guys, if you weren't interested in gay talk, and our attraction to men and Olivia Giroux and things like that, go ahead and fast forward to
first
right
of all,
now.
Shame on you because Giroux is a beautiful man.
He is. Just don't side profile. I don't like his nose. It freaks me out.
All right, so I thought we could. Oh yeah, we got to talk more about what we're playing, and then we'll talk a little bit about games that have kind of helped us through the crap.
Which, by the way, when I went and got my haircut last week, that's what I did. I walked into the lady. She's like, "Oh, and what can we do for you today?" I was like, "See this guy? He's not as good looking as me, but can you do my hair like him?"
Did you get a laugh out of her?
No.
Oh, she was like, "You're right."
No, I actually did the reverse. I was like, Can you? Is there a way you can do my hair like this? And I showed her the picture that I post on the page all the time. I was like, I know I'm not as good looking, but can you at least try? And then she just kind of smiled. She's like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I thought she did pretty good. I ended up, after styling it a few times, it ended up turning into a faux hawk because my hair just naturally goes to the center. But in the beginning, I was doing it like
your hair just naturally shapes into a douchey hairstyle of the faux hawk.
Exactly.
You can't help it.
There's not a lot of light for you to see, but it is. It just naturally starts pushing towards the center.
Yeah, it looks like you are speaking to me from some undisclosed secret location because all I can see is the light from one side barely lighting like the side of your nose, the top of your cheek, and part of your forehead. That's it.
I'm in one of the Far Cry 5 bunkers right now.
So. Like I said, you are a prepper.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so stuff I've been playing. Of course, I just started playing Octopath Traveler, which we'll talk about in a bit. Been doing a ton of summertime Pokemon Go with the kiddos and with by myself. That game is really fun. It's really addicting, and it's only fun if you actually do a lot of the new stuff they added. They added the ability to add friends and to trade with friends who are close by. They've got raid battles now where you can earn a shot at catching legendary Pokemon. So they've added a whole bunch of stuff to it, and they keep adding new waves of Pokemon to the game. They have these community days where you can go out and catch certain Pokemon in large amounts for like 3 hours, and everything lasts longer. All the items that you use that are only 30 minutes now last for an hour or more. So anyway, they've done a lot of cool things to make it fun. You can still enjoy it completely for free. And it's gotten me and my kids out several times. Actually, a Sunday ago, I took 6 of them to McDonald's. We got a whole bunch of food to go. And then we went over to a local college campus that... Hey, buddy. Hey, are you laughing at me? We went over to a local college campus.
Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
All right, sorry.
I was going to say, we went over to a local college campus that has somewhere in the 15 to 20 range of stops. So we could just... parked there and then found some shady places to set up our food, eat McDonald's, and catch Pokemon. So it's been a really fun summer activity as the kids are not in school, and we're looking for ways to do some stuff with them. So I will admit I also enjoy it myself, but I don't think I would play it nearly as often if I didn't play it with my kids. So it is fun. I know it's easy to make fun of because it's a dumb free-to-play mobile game, but I think Niantic has done about as good of a job as I've seen on a mobile game. They've done a really good job at updating it, keeping it fun, keeping it interesting, keeping players engaged. They've done a great job. So anyway, I digress. Pokemon Go, super, super fun. I'm really far into my Witcher 3 New Game Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hours, but I'm at level 71, I think. I'm on level 71. And I'm about to head over to Skellige for that part of the story. But man, that game is one of the best ever. Still up there in my top 5 for sure. I don't know that it's you told me that by the time I finish New Game Plus, it might overtake number 1. I don't know about that, but it is amazing.
See, even when I finished my second playthrough, I had a desire to play it a third time. And if there would have been a New Game Plus, I probably would have at least started it and played it a while. I know I started on PC, but I didn't want to. I like the New Game Plus because I like to keep what I've already earned.
Yep.
So I don't like to have to redo it in a new game. So I kind of wish they would allow us to do New Game Plus. But at some point, I'll probably. It's almost
weird how much stuff they let you keep, right? I mean, you have almost your full inventory right there. The one strange thing is that they reset your Gwent deck because I guess they want you to re-earn those things. Because if you already have a full deck of cards, why would you bother even playing the game? So I guess I kind of get it, but they let you keep everything except for that, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm finding it to be a blast. I've done a lot of different versions of side quests. I've already found a few side quests that I never found at all my first playthrough because I certainly did not 100% that game. But this time I'm going a little bit further into the corners of each map and finding some stuff that I didn't find before. Although I do like the kind of tried and true Geralt and Yennefer love story. This time I went with Geralt and Triss, turning down Yen and going after the redhead this time just to see that part of the story play out. It's really interesting, man. They did a good job no matter which direction you, the player, decide to go. It's very entertaining and engaging. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I still think it's one of the best games ever created.
There's a mission. It's a pretty important side mission where you can take part in an assassination or foil it. And of course, my first playthrough, being the goody two shoes that I often am, I foiled it. But this time through, I'm totally going to help them go through with it. So things like that, I just think are really cool. You can see how things play out. So anyway, Witcher 3. If you haven't played it, what is wrong with you? Go play it. It's really, really fun.
It's super cheap too.
Yep. So I'm playing a lot of that. I played some Lumines or Lumens. I'm not sure how it's pronounced actually. It's the remastered version that came out on all systems. I recommend it on Switch as a fun puzzle game. It's actually it's like a rhythm puzzle game because there's music and there's this thing that sweeps across the board. You're dropping these blocks into place, and then this thing sweeps across the board, and whenever you've matched up into some sort of square or rectangle shapes, then gets wiped away and everything falls back into place. But it's all done in rhythm with this music, so you can time out these or time up these combos and things like that. Very interesting, very stylish game. I think it's like $15, but I highly recommend it if you're into rhythm games and puzzle games, especially. So to go check that one out. Trying to think if there's anything else I'm playing besides Octopath now. Like I said, a lot of Witcher 3. And I've been watching a TV show called Better Call Saul, which I cannot recommend enough. It is so good. If you liked Breaking Bad, you have no excuse not to watch this one. But even if you've never seen Breaking Bad, it's a great show on its own. You don't have to watch Breaking Bad to understand it, but it does help a little bit with some of the Easter eggs that are in there. But you can go in totally not knowing Breaking Bad at all and still really enjoy it. It's a really great show, Better Call Saul. And I think 3 or 4 seasons are on Netflix. So that's what I've been up to, other than, as you can hear in the background here, taking care of little kids, little babies and stuff.
Yeah.
So I find, as you can tell, I've got a wide variety of different types of games. So to kind of transition into the topic I want to talk about, when life is crazy or when life gets hard or a combination of both, it doesn't always have to be bad, but we always are. There's always that moment where you go, I just need to, and then fill in the blank with that thing you want to do to kind of to vent or to escape. And for me, when it comes to the gaming part of things, it's been, I just want to have a variety of things at my disposal and dive into one of them. So I've got some mindless puzzle games that I'll go play. Still like Picross from time to time, or Luminous. I have played a little bit more Legend of Zelda, Link Between Worlds 2, which is fun. Or if I've got time and I've got the access to the TV and the kids are all occupied, I can dive into Witcher 3. So I like having a combination of both. But I do find, and I'm finding this right now with Octopath Traveler, if I were in a different phase of life, if there were so many other things that I were doing that I just didn't feel like I could engage with Octopath, I don't know if I could get into it, but I already feel really into this game. And I wonder, with how busy that we are, with, we got work, we've got church stuff, we've got foster care stuff we do. I'm actually playing softball in a summer league, which is fun. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and yet I am very interested in in-depth story-based games. So Octopath is perfect to me right now, and I don't know why that is. I think I do like the escape from what can feel overwhelming as a dad and as a husband, trying to meet all these expectations, take care of everybody, pay all the bills, still do a good job at work while all the stuff is happening at home and elsewhere. And sometimes I just want that really rich, deep game that I can kind of forget about everything else and jump into it. That's not always how I respond. Sometimes gaming is something I want nothing to do with when I'm in this kind of phase of life. But for right now, I'm very, very interested. That's why I've been so intrigued by The Witcher 3 all over again. And that's why Octopath Traveler is striking all the right notes for me. But that's how I'll start us off with this, is that I at times like to dig into games with really deep stories and interesting characters when I want to unplug from the rest of life late in the evening and everyone's gone to bed. Is that something you can relate with at all, or is that totally different from how you treat it when things are crazy?
Well, with my current state, like probably the last 4 or 5 months of my life, obviously I've pushed away from video games, but when I have played, I think I've said multiple times on the show, I don't want anything that has to, like, I have to think. Tell
me what you mean by that, because you do have to think in something like Destiny 2, right? You have to really.
Not really.
So tell me a little bit what you mean about think.
So for me, think is a game that I know, like, I'm comfortable with. So Destiny 2, I'm comfortable with. Like, if I had to learn, like, if I had never played it and I had to learn the systems, I'd probably tell you I'm not in the mood for this. But like Destiny 2, I already know the systems. I already know everything that's going on, and I play it enough that I don't forget a lot of things that are going on. And if they add on anything new, I don't feel like it's too different that I'm lost. Far Cry 5 was another game, even though it was a major release and it was a new game, and normally I push away from those. Like, I pushed away from God of War and stuff like that. For some reason, I felt comfortable with Far Cry 5. It just wasn't that overly complicated. It was just fun. It was open. And then Rocket League, of course. I mean, Rocket League, I think, was released 3 years ago. I think it came out June or July 2015.
Yep, 3 years ago. Yep.
And I'm seriously curious how many hours I've thrown away in that game. I mean,
across multiple systems. Yeah.
I own it on 4 systems. Now, I haven't played it much on the Switch. I played it a good amount on PC, but I wouldn't say, probably maybe 15, 20 hours on PC, if that. But the 2 big ones is Xbox and PS4. And I would have to say on the PS4 alone, I would have to be at 1,000 hours. Like, it's just ridiculous how often I will log in. Even during my slow time of gaming, which is right now, I still play that game a lot. I mean, before I went on my walk / jog tonight, I played with Jesse and his son Noah for, I think, 2.5 hours. We were just playing, talking, and having fun. And it's just a game that I don't have to think. I mean, of course you're thinking while you're playing the match. You're trying to do the best you can, but it's not overly complicated. It's just simple fun. It's a quick hit too. Sometimes I'll just log in, play for 5 minutes, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm not in the mood for this, and then I just turn it off. But right now, as far as other entertainment, the big thing I've been doing is I like to go on YouTube, and then I'll either put on music or I'll put on like a sermon, and I'll just chill out and relax. And that's pretty much what I do, since the only sports that's on that I am enjoying is the World Cup, but that's on during the day. So at nights, there's nothing on TV. I don't watch shows. So I pretty much will just put, if I'm not in the mood for gaming, which is quite frequent, and I'm just trying to calm down before I go to bed, I'll just put on some music or a sermon, and then I'll just like chill out to that, and then I go to bed.
I've been doing that with different types of debates and podcast stuff. Like, I think I've talked about this before. I love the long form discussion format of something like Joe Rogan, where they'll just get on and talk for a few hours. And even if it's a guest who I don't know anything about them, I might not even like them very much, but their conversation's interesting. Yeah. And having that on in the background while I am cleaning up at the end of the night, and maybe I'm finishing up some emails from work, or maybe I'm playing a video game, having that on in the background is something I've gotten used to. So I'm right there with you, putting that stuff on in the background while you do stuff. It's interesting, though, you mentioned Destiny 2, because I was going to ask you, what role does like social or online gaming play when you're not really in the mood for that big single player adventure? For some reason, that kind of gaming just isn't doing it for you. You feel like you have to force your way through it. Mm-hmm. What role, especially when you're going through something really tough, when life is really weird or nuts, what role does social or online gaming play for you? You mentioned playing for 2.5 hours today with Jesse and his son. You talked about playing Destiny 2, I'm assuming, with some friends. What role does that play for you as you're going through some stuff? Do you like being able to get online and chat with people? Is that cathartic for you?
Yeah, I mean, with my personality type, when I'm going through something, I'm not actually the type that shuts down. I'm actually kind of and I'm trying to change who I am, not for anybody else. It's for myself, in case people are like, don't change for these people, blah, blah, blah. But I'm naturally like a loner. Like, normally when I would go into work, I wouldn't even say good morning to anybody. I would just come in, put my headphones on, do my job, only talk when necessary, especially when I was like in management field. I just didn't really care to socialize. Same thing with gaming. It's just, I would come home, get on there, game. Normally, even if I'm playing like a multiplayer game where you have to play with teammates, like even Destiny 2, I would play with randoms, so I wasn't talking to them. Same thing with Rocket League, stuff like that. Now that I'm going through what I'm going through, I'm the type, you would think with my personality, well, he probably just keeps all his feelings in. No, they got to come out. I mean, I just have to get it out, and I usually have to talk it out. So I'll talk to multiple people, because that's usually how I figure everything out. Because if I just try to keep it in here, it actually comes out. It comes out jumbled. Like there's different thoughts all over the place. So when I socialize with people, I start to piece it all together the more and more I talk about it. So to answer your question, I enjoy, especially particularly now, I enjoy gaming with other people. I don't get on there and be like, hey guys, let me tell you about my problems. Like, I don't try not to be too selfish with who I am. Like,
as everyone quietly goes, I gotta go.
oh yeah, my kid just woke up. My wife called. No, I'm not like, hey guys,
Anything
let's stay.
else just happened.
But sometimes it's just like, socializing, so I don't have to think.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But this is an extreme case. In case people are just listening, I'm not gonna go into what I'm going through, but it's an extreme case. I'm not gonna be like this forever. And in fact, I'm pretty much getting through it now. Anyways, I'm more normal now than I've been in the last 6 months. But when I was going through that, I wouldn't get on there and be like, Jamie, that's my brother, you need to listen to all my problems. No,
Right.
Let's just play Destiny 2. And then if we start talking about it naturally, then we talk about it naturally. If we don't, we don't. And a lot of times people would know what I'm going through and they would actually ask me. I wouldn't even bring it up. So,
it's interesting because when I was going through, I remember back, I think I was a senior in high school, and I had been in a very long, very serious relationship with this girl. Everyone kind of assumed we were going to get married someday. It's one of those kind of things, quote unquote, perfect match. And then the summer before senior year, I remember we kind of took a little bit of a break because both of us weren't going to see each other, and just said, hey, let's just make sure this is the real deal, and then we'll come back together. Well, when we came back together, things were really weird. And of course, by a couple weeks into senior year of school, she was already with other dudes at that point. Like it was over. And I remember I had a really hard time with that. Wrote a whole bunch of sad songs about it. But as far as like escaping, I found Final Fantasy games to kind of be my go-to. And I think that's around the time I played Final Fantasy 9, maybe around the year 2000, 2001. I think that was out then. I went back to games, some of my favorites. And I wonder now, you and I did our top 25 list recently.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of the reason I can't let go of Chrono Trigger, Suikoden 2, and Final Fantasy 6, not only because I think they are kind of like the epitome of that style of RPG, but I also wonder if those are the kind of games I went back to and replayed during all this. I think that might have been the first time I played Suikoden 2, now that I think about it. But anyway, those are the games that I went to, and I totally escaped into those worlds, into those characters. And I remember printing out guides to the library. I would go on to GameFAQs.com or some similar site and just print out page after page of guides to get all the characters and all that kind of stuff. And trying to deal with that loss, that rejection, as a senior in high school, getting ready to head off to college, no idea what was going to happen next. And I let my weekends kind of become I'm just going to escape into these video games. I worked at the time, so I would go to work and then come home and just game.
Yeah. I would say, I would say, I'm not saying those games aren't really as good as they are, but I think everything when you're going through something gets magnified. I'll give an example. I'll make it short, but like, I'm a big We Came as Romans fan, and one of the songs they wrote that really hooked me to them from the very beginning was To Move On Is to Grow. And I just liked it because I thought it was an awesome song. But whenever I would go back to it, I'm like, yeah, it's good, but I'm not into it. Well, with everything I'm going through right now, the last 3 weeks, I have not stopped listening to that song. And we're talking, I'm probably on 1,000, like repeat. And the song is amazing still, but I'm more hooked to it, engaged to it, because I'm listening to what they're saying. And I'm like, that applies to me. That applies to me. That applies to me. That applies to me. And even with the sermons, like I was joking with my friend at work. I'm like, you really need to listen to this guy. And I know we don't have all Christian listeners, so I'm not going to sit here and get into who this guy is that I like. But I was like, you really need to listen to this guy. I listened to this sermon 5 times. And she looks at me. She's like, Derek, I'm sure it is good, but I'm not going through what you're going through. So you're kind of being a little dramatic on how great he is. I'm like, probably, but he's really good. You need to.
That's when you start yelling, "Listen to it, listen."
But she was making the point I'm making now, and that is it really good sermon? I bet it is. But seriously, 5 times. I've listened to it 5 times in the last week. Why? And I'm crying and laughing the entire time because he's speaking to my situation right now.
Right.
In a year, I might go back and listen and be like, yeah, it's a good one, but I'm past all that. Or I might not even be able to listen to it because I'll be like, I don't want to think about that time in my life.
Yep.
That this sermon has now been sabotaged, or maybe this "We Came as Romans" song is going to be sabotaged. But for you, you were playing those video games during a hard times, and I'm sure they don't make you think of the hard times, but it makes you actually think about the how they were there for you for that difficult time.
Oh yeah, those
So
games have a very positive place in my memory bank. I loved those experiences, and I doubt I would have wanted to play something like a Detroit Become Human, or especially something like a Heavy Rain, something where it's kind of trying to show a very realistic take. Of course, Detroit is supposed to be set in the future, but it's supposed to be kind of real, and there's real struggles people are going through. I wouldn't have wanted something that dramatic and real, gritty feeling. I would have wanted something like I played, something that's totally different from reality. Let me get out of reality for a bit. The Witcher 3 is a good example. Let me get out into this fantasy world and explore it. Let me get out of Earth at the moment. And so that was a big deal for me back then. And it's happened since then too. I mean, it's not like everything's been perfect since then. We've had ups and downs. We've had challenges that we've had to deal with together as parents and, within our marriage. I remember probably about 6 years ago now, we went through a really tough stretch. And I remember playing I stopped playing for a little while to really focus on my marriage. But then once things got into a little bit more of a regular rhythm, the first series I jumped back into was Assassin's Creed. I think I played through Brotherhood and AC3. And then shortly after that, AC4 came out. Maybe that was about that time. Anyway, those were great games for me because they were completely separated from reality. I was exploring these historical fiction worlds. And I loved that. I really loved the ability to do that. And I think, again, that allowed me to kind of overlook. Normally, I would sit there and criticize the jankiness or whatever people don't like about Assassin's Creed. But I do think that what we're talking about really emphasizes the fact that your circumstances, the context in which you're enjoying a piece of entertainment, really defines how you enjoy it or don't, which makes the idea of reviews really interesting. So when you go and see a reviewer on YouTube or on IGN or somewhere like that, give a game a score, I like to think that everyone is objective all the time and they're really coming down to the nitty gritty of what makes this good or bad. But if they're human beings, which I'm assuming they all are, then they are also going through stuff. And sometimes things might be calm and that's the right score and they did a great job. Sometimes I think they gave something a 10 that maybe shouldn't have gotten a 10, but because of stuff going on in their lives, that was the perfect game for them, Or maybe they hate everything and they had to review a game, and so now all of a sudden it's a 6 and it should have been much higher. So it's just interesting to think about the way that the context of what we're going through can affect what we're watching or playing, or listening to, for that matter, like music, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Hang on one second. Trying to feed a baby here. There we go. So anyway, all that to say, summertime is an interesting one for me because thinking back when I was a kid and I really got into games, that's when I played the most games, obviously, was summer break. And so that's when games like Octopath Traveler would have been the stuff I'm diving into. So I do wonder, too, if the season is contributing to how much I'm enjoying Octopath as well.
I mean, let's transition to talk about that game a little bit. I mean, I played like an hour of it because I had started with the demo and then I just continued from the demo.
Which character did you pick?
I don't know his name, but he's like the warrior.
Okay, yeah, Ulberich, I think.
Yeah. So I like it. I mean, I haven't played much, and I don't know if I'll get hooked. I don't even know why I bought it. I just saw the 9.3 from IGN, and I watched the video. I was like, man, this would totally be something I would buy and play if I was in my normal mode. And I had the money, and I was like, all right, I'll just buy it. But so far, I liked the combat. It's pretty simplistic. I haven't hit anything real hard yet. But I enjoy the simplicity of the combat, but I also enjoy like the world so far. I do like the way it looks. I'm not a big fan of I don't know how to describe it.
The pixel art?
Yeah, because like the world looks cool, but the characters look too pixely for me. Like I wish it was a little bit cleaner.
We'll talk about the world a little bit. What about it catches your eye? Because I've got a lot that I think about. I'm curious.
It's like one of the things that stuck out for me is how it's like old school combined with new school, meaning like it has that like pixel art look, but then they throw in things that look modern.
Yeah, like the water, the trees blowing in the wind, or even the sunlight coming through the village.
Exactly. So you and I noticed the same thing. So it's just got this like, hey, you're playing an old game, but no, you're not. Here's let's
at times
has
a pop-up book look to it, but not that corny. You know what I'm saying? Like, because everything's kind of flat and yet in a 3D space. As you move around the world, it gets closer and farther away from you visibly. It almost feels like playing something on the 3DS with 3D on full blast, except it's not really, of course, in 3D.
Yeah.
It's much prettier than anything the 3DS could do. I'm just saying it has a 3D vibe to it.
It does. The way they do like the waterfalls and stuff like that. It looks like it's like coming out at you, even though you're not really playing it in 3D.
Yeah, I can understand the gripe about the way the characters look. I know that's definitely not for everyone. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. If they were to ask me at the beginning of development, because for some reason I have the control over it, I would say, with how beautiful that world is, I think you need to think outside the box for character design too, and go beyond just making it look like a really great 16 or 32-bit game. That's what I would have said. But they made it the way they made it, and I don't have a problem with it. I think it still looks really nice. What's really cool is the character art. So if you go into like the status screens and see the character artwork, that's really, really good. It's just that's
they're not totally playing off nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine. I think it's okay to do that. Like, I think this is a game where people have been begging Square to go back to their roots. So I think they're trying to say, oh, you want us to go back to our roots? We're literally going to go back to our roots. Like, we're going to make the game look like our roots, and play like our roots. So I think it was a smart call by them. I think it's actually a smart business decision.
Because we talked about a game a year or more ago called I Am Setsuna and its follow-up Lost Sphere. And that game does not use pixel art. It has much more of a 32-bit or maybe PS2 era looking characters, a little more polygonal.
Mm-hmm.
Would you prefer the characters look more like that in this setting? Or do you say, well, compare that to the pixel art. Pixel art's fine. Where do you fall in that?
I'd probably personally prefer the I Am Setsuna look, but obviously in Octo Trash's world. But again, from a business decision, I think this was a smart move by them. Like, I don't look at it and go, this is so stupid they did this. I'm like, no, this is what the people have been asking for. They're literally giving them what they want. So I think it's a smart decision.
Do you think development effort, time, money, all that stuff, and maybe a potential sequel, do you think this might make it easier for that? And so not only were they able to really make a different looking retro game, but also they're able to recreate it pretty easily. It doesn't seem super taxing. It says it's interesting. It says Unreal Engine 4 on the game startup. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yep.
So, and the game runs really smoothly. It's very beautiful. You get in and out of battles really quickly. The menu system works great. There's no slowdown. I mean, to me, the game runs super smoothly, and you can navigate the world really easily. But I do wonder if the simplification of the way the characters look on screen was a stylistic, artistic choice, yes, but also maybe an efficiency one that allowed them to, create this game in a decent amount of time and maybe do more like it. I do wonder that a little bit.
Yeah, but I think it could be both. It could be, hey, people want this, but also, hey, guys, this is cheaper to make and it's faster and more efficient. We can pump more of these games out, blah, blah, blah. Could be all those combined.
So when you start up the game, you've got 8 characters to choose from, obviously Octopath Traveler. And the idea is that, from what I can tell and what I've read, I'm sure you've read the same thing, there isn't one major overarching story that they're all pulled into. So that sets it apart from something like, say, Final Fantasy VI, where every character has their own story, but they're also pulled into the bigger narrative. Their own story is just to show us why they joined the team. But really, they're all working together for this big, giant battle against Kefka. In this game, from what I've seen so far and what I've read, there really isn't going to be a big through line story for everyone. Maybe there will be, and I misread it, but it's much more each person's smaller story. Which, by the way, I'm about to start my 4th one now. I haven't finished the others. Don't get me wrong. I'll explain that in a second. But I'm about to start my 4th one now, and they are they all have interesting moments and little interesting things to them. But yes, there is not one big earth-ending thing that they're trying to work together to avoid that I know of. Maybe that comes later. But from what I can tell, it literally is going to be 8 people who happen to be all on this journey, and they need help, and they're all helping each other, basically.
Now, does anybody know how long each story is, a roundabout?
So I was wondering that too. I thought maybe I start one story, maybe I finish that one, and then I move on to the next. Well, I don't think you are even able to do that if you want to, because so I picked the hunter. I'm not sure how to say her name, Honnet or whatever. I picked her and got the story started, got through chapter 1, got to the first woods area and beat the first boss. And then they kind of pointed me in a general direction on this map and said, head this direction next. And so I did. Sorry, I got puked on being a dad here. And so I did, but before I can get there, if you go to the world map, it tells you what the recommended level is. So for her chapter 2, it's recommending level 27. And I was level 6 coming out of there, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, if you look at the map, it gives you these little green cities, locations for each of the other characters. And the idea is go to those towns, and they're kind of in a big loop, so you can just follow the loop. And you meet that character. It asks you, do you want to see the beginning of their story? You say yes, and you go through their little opening. And then you can join them for their first boss fight, and then you're then together. So everyone has a chapter 1 that you play through together, or play through first. Then you join the party, and then you can move on, I think, in whatever order you want. So technically, I could probably start grinding XP and work my way up to level 20, whatever, and go to her chapter 2. But more realistically, every time you take a new character on, now the recommended level for the next character's chapter 1 goes up a little bit. So on my third character, it said recommended level 7. So I got them both to level 7, then picked up my third character, and so on. So I think they've done a good job at linking them together in a way it's going to feel like one solid story. The only thing I wonder is by the time I get all 8 characters, will I kind of forget anything that I was doing with the original Honnet in the first place? Yeah. So the narrative might end up being the weakest point when it's all said and done. So far, it's not bad. Although I will say, if you keep playing it and you get to the apothecary guy, his name is Alphen. He's got a really good buddy named Zeph. They're both apothecaries together in a town. I'm 99% sure that similar to the game Get Out, their whole storyline is how they can't admit how much they love each other. So, yeah. There's a scene towards the end of his opening chapter that I was like, just make out already. What are you guys doing? Yeah, it got to that point.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I want to talk a little bit about what you think about the combat. So it's, of course, to the old school, early Final Fantasy game style combat where you're on the side, your characters are all on one side, enemies are on the other, and along the top, kind of similar to Final Fantasy X, it shows you the order of who's coming up next. And of course, based on things you do, you can change that order a bit. So what do you think about the combat so far?
So far, I like it. Again, I haven't gotten real deep, so I don't know if they're going to add on to it or complicate it, anything. But right now, the only thing I do a lot of is just power up I forgot what it is. You hit the right bumper to make you more powerful so you can do a double shot. Or you can do 3-4 hits if you build it up. But I use that a lot to break the opponent, and then that skips their turn because they're stunned.
Yeah.
So it's been real simple so far, but like I said, I'm only an hour in.
Yeah, so every enemy has a little shield down underneath their character on the screen, and it has a little number. So if it's 1, that means all you have to do is find their weakness, and they usually have multiple weaknesses. Hit them with that once. It won't do much damage because they're shielded, but that will break the shield, and it will make them dizzy for a couple turns, and then allow you to unleash a bunch of pain. And of course, as you get up to bosses, their shield numbers get much higher. Like one of the early bosses will have a shield in the 7 or 8 range, and you have to find their weakness, hit them 7 or 8 times with that thing. Then you finally have an opening to unleash some stuff on them. What's interesting is those power-ups you're talking about. So after every turn, unless you use them, you'll get these little orbs that fill up. I think you can get up to 5 all at once. And like Derek said, you hit the bumper to power up your regular attack, but you can also power up your special moves. So with the hunter, I can summon beasts, and they have a set amount that they'll attack for, depending on which beasts I've captured. But if I do the power up, then their attack is significantly boosted. Or if you have a character who does magic, I've got one who can cast an ice attack, and you save his power ups, you can power it up all the way to what's called level 1, 2, 3, and max. And then once you get up to max, and it does the most damage it could possibly do. So there's some really cool stuff that you can do with their special attacks as well. Of course, you have your standard hit points and your special attack points, kind of your magic points. And you can unlock skills as you level up. You know, you earn these job points where you can unlock special skills. You can even unlock passive skills once you get to a certain point. So they certainly have done a great job at saying, this is a real RPG. You change your equipment, go, you know, search the world for hidden treasure chests to get strong weapons and strong armor, save up your money and buy stuff from the shops to upgrade that way. It's all about the stats. It's all about unlocking skills. It feels very much like an early PS1, late Super Nintendo RPG to me. And of course, you know me, that's all I ever want. So
Yeah.
I love the way the combat is set up. And as you get multiple characters in the party, they each have different weapon types. So you've got swords, daggers, bows, axes, spears, and certain enemies will have a vulnerability to certain weapons. And so it forces you to time who's going to attack when. So you're going to want to attack that enemy right there to take him off of the board, because that'll make him dizzy for a turn. But then you want to do an AoE attack of some kind, or you want to defend or heal at that moment. So there's a lot of strategy in place too. So I really like it. At first I thought it was weird with the shield, but now I'm really starting to enjoy the way they've set up that shield part of the combat. So I dig it. I dig it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check it out a little bit more. And if I don't like it, I'll just sell it. But so far, I like it.
I would say, at least if you can, at least give it until you pick up your second character and see what it's like to just have two fighting styles at once. And if that battle system at that point is not that great for you, then yeah, that's all you need to know about how deep the game gets at that point, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, that's Octopath Traveler. Of course, some people don't love that it was $60. I don't have a problem with it. This is a massive RPG. It's brand new. It's not a re-release of any kind. It's exclusive to the system. As we've talked about, it's got a gorgeous world. I think the art style of the world is amazing, and I think they're very creative with how they've done the characters in the world. But as Derek said, maybe not everyone. Sorry, my buddy here doesn't like it.
He's upset about the price point.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care. Oh no, he just now found out it was 60. This is what the Nintendo group sounded like when they heard the price. Yeah.
I mean, I will admit, I was a little bummed. I was like, oh man, I was hoping this would be like
what you sounded like.
Yeah, I definitely was hoping it would be a $40 or $50 game, but I didn't cry about it. I mean, I ended up paying $50 for it. I just used Amazon Prime, so I was like, whatever, I don't care.
I actually used a bunch of my my Nintendo Club points or whatever, and because I wanted the digital version of it, so I used that, and I ended up getting it for I think 51, something like that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad. But overall, I like it. I'm curious to hear what you listeners think about it. I know a lot in our group have said they've got it. I just haven't heard a ton of opinions on it yet, so I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks. And hey, if this is a game that can keep Derek's attention, you know they're doing something right, because the art style, especially the characters, is not something that yourself or a few other gamers that I know are really into. Some of them are genuinely confused as to why people like that style.
Yeah, my brother.
Yeah, your brother's one of them. And I don't blame him. It's a legitimate question. And I do think it's a combination of nostalgia for me, as well as I legitimately like the way that looks. Do I want all my games to look that way? No. I want God of War to look as beautiful as it does. I want Uncharted to look real. You know, that's what I want from those games. But from these old JRPG games that are throwing it back to old Super Nintendo and PS1, I'm okay with it looking like that. So I don't know. I don't know what it is exactly, but yeah, neither does he. He doesn't know either. All right, well, I'm going to give you guys a break from listening to the baby make noises, and we're going to call that episode for this week. So,
yeah,
Derek,
I was going to say, my phone's
time,
about ready to die anyways. We can always record the mid-year.
Yeah, we'll talk. The next time we talk, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I think we'll use Metacritic. It's a nice kind of average of all the reviews that are out there. We'll use Metacritic, and we'll go through some of the games they're saying are the best games of 2018 so far. and we'll talk about whether or not we think it deserves to be in the Game of the Year discussion at this point of the year. So we'll do that next time. But Derek, thanks, man. Thanks for sticking with it, even though I've got a crying, spitting up baby on my shoulder. I know you probably don't miss these days.
I do, actually. I actually was saying how I want a fourth child, and my friends at work were like, "You're an idiot. Don't do it."
Dude, once baby starts smiling at you, your heart melts and you kind of forget all the crazy stuff about middle of the nights. It's crazy.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind having a fourth. All
right, man. Well, take care. And you listeners, thank you for checking in. We'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. See ya.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things here.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?